Welcome back to the 76th International Astronautical Congress happening on Gadigal land here at the International Convention Centre in Sydney. On this edition of Talkin' Science, new friends of the channel, Varda Space Industries, have invited us to sit down and film their fireside chat with Voyager Technologies, also a US-based manufacturing company, but they're looking at building StarLab, a crewed space station, to do the in-orbit manufacturing, whereas Varda are doing the robotic kind. Voyager want to do it with a crewed mission. They're complementary businesses, which is just incredible that these two companies have come up with pretty much the same idea, but putting humans in the mix as well. So let's roll the opener and let's sit down and have a fireside chat about the future of in-orbit manufacturing.
All right, good morning. Hope everybody's had some coffee. It's ready for some lively discussion about the future of the orbital economy. My name is Josh Martin. I'm Vice President for Government Affairs with Varda Space Industries. Varda Space, as you know, is one of the leading orbital manufacturing companies. We provide a free-flying capability to host a range of different science payloads, pharmaceutical processing, and also payloads for the U.S. Department of Defense. I want to say thank you to the Australian Space Agency for hosting this event this morning. We have a very important and close working relationship with ASA, and so it's been a pleasure to be part of so many great conversations here during IAC. So, what we're here to talk about today, and I'm joined by my friend Manwei Chan from Voyager Space. We're going to talk a little bit about collaborations between crewed and uncrewed free-flying orbital platforms, the future of microgravity research as NASA begins this important transition, from the ISS to commercial LEO destinations, which Voyager is very well involved in. But before we go any further, I'll go ahead and let Manwei introduce himself, and then we can start the discussion. Sound good?
And to finish off this historic partnership.
Thanks, Alex, for the great introduction. Thanks, Varda, for the invite. And then also thanks Australian Space Agency for hosting this great talk here. So my name is Manwei Chan. I'm Director of International and Science at Voyager Technologies. Our main projects, especially in this scope here, is the StarLab space station, and we're also building a microgravity science park out in Ohio. So thanks again, and I'll hand it back to Alex. Josh. I'm so bad. Alex is the person who invited me.
That's okay. We're entertained. We're all tired. Yeah, we're all tired. So, well, I think maybe we kind of start the conversation off and talk about, our different approaches. I think our two companies, are supporting, a range of scientific endeavors, but we do it a little differently. And so at Varda, we're very much focused on high cadence orbital science, utilizing a free-flying capability, which is sitting right next to me here. They may be having more fun over there. And I think Varda's perspective is that development of markets so the pharmaceutical markets that will pharmaceutical enterprises that will benefit from development of technologies in a microgravity environment. Other technologies like semiconductors, fiber optic cables, again, these are high-value products, that can be improved through production in a microgravity environment. And we believe that the one way to grow those markets over time is to really increase the number of shots on goal of the number of experiments that you're going to run over a given amount of time. And the way we do that is through flight cadence. So this vehicle that's sitting right next to me here is the W3 reentry vehicle. It hosts a number of different technologies on board. And we fly these things multiple times. So this year we will fly 4 times next year, 7 times in 27, 9 times in 29. So really starting to pick up that that cadence that would be available to a range of different researchers to produce pretty exciting and promising results. We think, as NASA and other civil space agencies are sort of thinking through, the transition with ISS and with the bringing on commercial LEO destinations, that there really is a symbiotic relationship between, crewed and uncrewed, free flyers. There are just certain things that we can do that a crewed platform cannot, and vice versa. And so, as we are working through this transition period, we really think that decision makers and leaders are starting to realize this, and so it's a promising time, I think, to be working with our colleagues like Voyager and others. But I won't prattle on. I want to hear how Voyager is sort of thinking about this and some of the promising projects that they have going on.
Great, yeah. Thanks, Josh. I got the right name that time. Yeah, so Voyager, obviously right now the platform in space is the International Space Station, and Voyager right now has access to it. So that's our current access to the space environment. But looking ahead, as Josh was saying, we're going into a new era of commercial space in terms of using space for the environment that it has to build out commercial products, to build out new research. So Voyager, in addition to having access to the International Space Station, in the future we're going to be building a terrestrial hub in Ohio, and that's going to be focused on in-space research and manufacturing. So it's easier to start something on the ground before sending it to space, and we're going to have the campus that will be the nexus of this. It's going to be called VISTA, the Voyager Institute for Space Technology and Advancement in Ohio. And then going into microgravity, we're going to have our crewed platform, which is the StarLab space station. It's going to be crewed by 4 permanent crew and has the capacity to host 8 because you need 4 to come up and then 4 to come down, so you don't leave it uncrewed. And that's planned to launch in 2029. And as Josh was saying, in a way, these are all complementary platforms because some experiments are going to be more affordable and don't need necessary crew interaction, but others, equipment or other types of experiments will need crewed interaction. So this is the critical point of building out this commercial LEO ecosystem, is that we all have different capabilities and strengths. So for example, if we had Apple and Microsoft making the same product, it wouldn't really be a commercial system. We'd have no choice. There would be no argument between green and blue bubblers, and that's just not the way that we believe or a thriving commercial ecosystem is going to have. There has to be some sort of delineation between each of the services so that customers can go and choose different price points, choose different services, and that's what's going to create a robust LEO economy, which is, I'm going to talk for Varda, but both our goals here.
I want to talk a little bit about the activity at the research park. Sort of how are you focusing, some of the projects, that you're developing, there, and then how does Voyager think about transitioning those projects, ultimately, into science on board a space station?
Yeah, so it's a great question. One of the we're thinking of the next 5 years as the next generation of in-space research and manufacturing. Currently, our commercial space sectors is a lot of telecommunications and remote sensing. And as I mentioned before, we believe the next era is going to be utilizing the space environment for creating commercial products. And one of the key features here is that we have to bring in companies that don't necessarily have a space background. Right, so we're thinking about pharmaceuticals. I know Varda is doing it. We're thinking about advanced manufacturing with the fiber optic cables. We're thinking of new age semiconductors that have higher capacity than what we can currently do in smaller form factors. But these companies, say Merck, Eli Lilly and Pharma, or United Semiconductors, they don't necessarily understand space. And right now, obviously, they think of space as a very expensive way to test and create products. And they don't understand that, or they haven't been convinced that space itself is going to be an entirely new environment and resource for us to build these new products. So for the science park itself on the ground, we're trying to bring in these companies and we're trying to provide the business resources to make it easy for them to get to space. So we're going to provide business services, access to capital, access to grant writers, access to marketing, access to legal. And one of the key features is that we're not, even though we're all under the Voyager umbrella, we're not exclusive to StarLab. So we're actually platform agnostic. And part of that is, again, in our goal to create a vibrant LEO production microgravity system. So if someone comes to us in our park and their project is best suited for an unmanned system, we'll send them to Varda. If they need a permanently crewed space station to conduct their experiment, they'll go to StarLab. Or maybe they'll use Varda as a stepping stone, as a proof of concept before they go to StarLab. So they should have a bunch of options, whether it's Varda, StarLab, or maybe another in-space destination that hasn't come around yet that is going to be available to them. So that's kind of our goal with the ground ecosystem. It's for the whole community. It's to grow out our industrial base so that there's be more people using the space environment to create better products.
Thanks for that. That's I think that's a really good point. Is that for growth of commercial markets, and especially working with companies that aren't traditionally space companies, right? You have to demystify a little bit of this, and to take the pharmaceutical example. I think that's an industry that's going to rely on a lot of repeatable science over time. I mean, drug development campaigns. You're running tens of thousands of protein analysis and other experiments. As you develop those products. And so in a way, the space industry sort of has to come up to that standard, right? For it to be a true commercial partner. I think, at Varda, we're really leaning into that, challenge. We just recently opened up a 50,000 square foot pharmaceutical lab that's co-located with our spacecraft production facility, and really to try to meet that industry standard with life sciences companies that have an approach, and if space has a benefit, they will invest and utilize, that. But we also have to, make sure that we are, working within industry norms, as well too. So
there you have it, Voyager Technologies looking at StarLab, their space station that's going to be crewed by humans to do in-orbit manufacturing, complementing Varda Space Industries' use of robotics and the capsules to do in-orbit manufacturing. So complementing each other there and teaming up to do the next generation of manufacturing in microgravity. Looking forward to seeing more of these capsules landing at the Kiddiba Test Range in South Australia. Of course, their partnership with Southern Launch was further cemented on Tuesday here at IAC as they announced another 20 capsule returns over the next 3 years. So we will be on the lookout for all of that and very much hoping to get on range and document the story of recovering those capsules. Would love to even take it from liftoff to landing. Watch this space. In the meantime, if you want to support me to try and do that, jump onto the Trek.zone/support. Become a member for less than a cup of coffee a month. You'll get behind the scenes access and early releases of podcasts as best as I can if I'm not releasing them as fast as I am this week with IAC. But never fear, because there's not a paywall here at Trekzone, so like, follow and subscribe on our social medias and you will also get those releases when they become public. For now though, this is special editions of Trekzone's Talkin' Science from IAC 2025.